What's going on, everybody? It's the Reformation Keegan, and I'm here today to do my first ever vlog. So today we are going to Villains Comic Shop in London, Ontario. This is the warehouse for Heroes Comic Shop, which I've been to many times, and I'm really excited because we're gonna get some really cool deals. We're gonna find some really cool comics, and I cannot wait. Some of the sales here are pretty awesome, so I'm hoping I can get some goodies for Keegan's Archive, aka my collection. It's going to be a couple hours of a drive, but I'm pretty excited for this because driving for me has always been super peaceful. And I'm really excited to see this shop because this is the one part of the shop that I've never ventured into. So we are heading on our way to London right now. We have made it. We are officially here. We're at Heroes Comic Shop, but we're not just going to Heroes. We're going to go to Villains. Let you know where to pick up. All right, everybody, so now I'm going to show what I picked up at Villains in London, Ontario. We have a bit to get through. So I'm not going to go into overly descriptive detail about all of these comics. I might go into detail with some of them, but there are a lot of comics here, so I just want to make sure that the video isn't overly long. So we're going to go through a few of these, and if there's any comics you want me to talk about in a more in-depth manner, please just leave a comment. So first we have all 4 sets of The World of Krypton. The reason why I picked this up is because, one, I love the lore of Krypton, but I also am a bit of a Superman completionist, and if you have watched any of my other videos, you would know that. I absolutely love Superman, and I love to read a lot of more nuanced stories of the character, as well as really in-depth, more rare stories, because you learn a lot more about the lore of Krypton. You learn about Clark's upbringing, and I think those are 2 aspects of the character that really need to be divulged a bit more. So that's why I read it. I read it as an English major. So I like to look at his origin, and I like to look at the origin of where he came from and how that influences him in later, more prominent stories. So speaking of that, we also have Superman, The Last Family of Krypton. And it's a 3-issue miniseries that came out starting in October of 2010. And just like The World of Krypton, I picked this up because I love Kryptonian lore and I want to learn more about it, even though I am a diehard Superman fan. To me, with comics, you never stop learning and you never stop reading, and that is the beauty of it. Plus, the artwork, too, is pretty awesome. And I don't think I've ever read anything from Cary Bates, so I think this is going to be quite an interesting read. And it's also an Elseworlds, and I love a good Elseworlds story. And to me, besides Kingdom Come, the best Elseworlds story ever is Superman Red Sun. I would highly recommend checking that out. It's written by Mark Millar, who is a Scottish comic author, and he is tremendous. So I would also give that a shout. And one of the reasons I picked up a lot more than usual is because these sets were all 50% off the ticketed price. So I think it was just a great deal to pick a lot of these up, and I checked a lot off the proverbial bucket list. Now we have Garth Ennis' War Story. There are 4 of these in here. There are more. I believe there's 7 or 8 altogether, but I picked up these 4 because they were half off, so I've got these all for $6, which I think was a pretty good deal. And I love a lot of Garth Ennis' stuff. He is responsible for writing one of my top 3 favorite stories ever, which is Preacher, under Vertigo Comics. This is also under Vertigo as well, which is pretty cool. So I'm excited to learn a bit more about these war stories. And even though I have 4, I know I'm going to enjoy these, so I'm going to end up picking up the rest as well. But to me, this was just a good start. And I mentioned Mark Millar a bit earlier. We also have Nemesis. This, I believe, is the first incarnation of the character. I read the recent Nemesis trade that came out earlier this year, and I really, really like the character, but I wanted to learn a little more about this character and why Nemesis operates the way that he does. And he's a really intriguing character because you have a character who seems like they can have all they want in life, but it seems like it's not enough, so they want more. He's a very maniacal character, and I think that it's a perfect character for someone like Mark Millar to write based on his history of writing. Especially, like I said, with Superman Red Son a bit earlier, you can see little traces of it in Nemesis, and I really think this is a fun arc. Not this one, but the other one that just came out this year, and that's why I'm giving this another opportunity, and can't wait to see where it goes. Really cool cover too, by the way. So we also have Die Hard Year One. So I picked this up just because I thought it would interest me. And again, half off, 6 parts. There is actually 8. So one of my pet peeves sometimes is when you get sets, but they don't come with every single story in it. So I got to find 7 and 8 if I end up liking this, but not too mad about it because I'm going to give this a trial run. And if I like it, then I'll pick up issue 7 and 8. But again, I am a completionist, so I'm probably going to want to pick up 7 and 8 anyway, just to say that I read the entirety of the story. But one of the things that I've been trying to do a little more of is experimentation. So I will pick up 1 or 2 issues of a story at the beginning, and I'll read them, and I'll see if I like it, and see if I want to go from there. So, but also too, with like trade paperbacks, is if you get them for half off, you can't really go wrong. So even if you don't want to read it right now, you can read it afterward. But again, this is the reason I picked up Die Hard Year One, was because I just wanted to experiment. So, and that's the beauty of a lot of comics, is sometimes you don't know them, you don't know who published them right away, and you don't know who the writer is, or you don't know what the story is, but then you can discover and then read it and see if you like it. And a lot of my favorite comics ever just happened because of my curiosity through the vessel of discovery. Speaking of discovery, we also have Fever Ridge, A Tale of MacArthur's Jungle War. I am a huge fan of anything that's tribal. I'm a huge fan of culture. I am a huge fan of war and war stories. So to me, I'm getting a hat trick with this one. And I didn't even know what the story was. I went into Villains and I looked in the bins, as you saw in the earlier videos. And what I found really interesting was the cover of this. So the cover got me right away. And just anything that is revolving around culture or war, to me, is very interesting and very intriguing, because I did also major in history as a part of my undergrad. So I think the historian came out in me here. And for $7.99 half off, you can't go wrong. It's only 4 issues, so I'll probably get this done relatively quickly. But again, curiosity was the main reason behind this purchase. And this is my first real big vlog. So with going to Villains as just being the sole cameraman, I found it a little bit difficult to record everything that I wanted to record. Because I didn't have a cameraman there, so I had to record myself, which isn't a bad thing. I actually prefer doing it. But one of the things that I've learned going forward is I'm going to try to record a little more in-depthly. So I'm going to try and do that a little bit more. But if you ever want to go to Villains, I highly advise doing so. It's a really welcoming atmosphere, and you get a huge array of comics to look through, and you're going to spend hours there. So if you're into that, if you're into spending hours in a comic shop, I think Villains is going to be pretty beneficial for you. But speaking of beneficial, I actually got to complete a set that I've wanted to complete for a while, and that is Superman and Batman World's Finest. So these are in prestige format. There's 3 issues. I found issue number 1 before, but I could never find issues 2 and 3, and I finally have issues 2 and 3. I'm a huge fan of Batman and Superman team-ups, so I felt like I had to have this, especially because it's a little bit older, and it's way out of print. So I'm really happy that I found this. And I mean, for $5, I couldn't go wrong. So that's why I picked these up. They're in pretty good condition. And initially, these were $4.95 Canadian when they came out. So really, for $5, I bought all 3. Whereas before, you would have to buy 1 for $5. So to me, I win. Good deal. Now we have Mark Waid, one of my favorite comic authors of all time. We have the Legion of Superheroes run starting in 2005. And I must confess, I haven't read as much of the Legion as I've wanted to, because a lot of the older Legion stories are, to me, relatively difficult to find. A lot of them are out of print, and they're just not easy to access. But watching Smallville made me a huge fan of the Legion of Superheroes. And I heard through reviews that Mark Waid's Legion of Superheroes run is absolutely fantastic. So that's why I picked this up. And it was half off of the price again. So to me, it was a good deal. The only issue missing in this is issue 13. So I need to get lucky number 13 eventually, but I'm gonna probably blast through these 12 issues. I'm a huge fan of the Brainiac 5 character, and I really like how Brainiac as a character progresses. Especially if you've watched Smallville, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I'm really, really excited to read this because I haven't read a lot of the Legion, so that's gonna change really, really soon. So again, Legion of Superheroes by Mark Waid. Now we're officially into the big box. So I don't know how much in depth I'm going to go into a lot of these, because a lot of these ended up actually becoming just curiosity based purchases. So for example, we have Thunder Agents from DC. I don't really know a lot about this, but what I do know is a little bit of the synopsis, and that is these individuals want to become heroes, but they don't really know what the ramifications are of being a hero. And I actually find that synopsis, it's pretty intriguing to me. It's so simple yet so effective. So that's why I picked up Thunder Agents. I picked up the entire 10-issue run. So it looks cool, looks intriguing. Can't wait to get to it eventually. Now we have Powers by Brian Michael Bendis, one of the very few people where you use all three of his names because it just sounds better than Brian Bendis, even though you would have alliteration, but Brian Michael Bendis just sounds more author-like. So we have 10 parts of this. I think there's an 11th one too, so I'm gonna have to pick up issue 11 if I like it. But the artwork looks pretty fantastic, and Brian Michael Bendis is a tremendous writer. He's the author of Ultimate Spider-Man, and his work is really, really good. Also, he wrote Siege by Marvel, so I'm excited to read this because I'm a huge fan of detective-based stories, and we have another one coming up soon. But I'm really excited to read this because it's just something that's different and something that you don't read all the time. So, and like I said, it's Brian Michael Bendis, so can't really go wrong with Brian Michael Bendis. Okay, now this is where it's gonna get a bit intriguing because I have Wolfskin from Warren Ellis, and I also have Wolfskin: The 100th Dream. And I have some of the painted variants, which look absolutely beautiful. I'm happy I picked these up, but I will confess that there are a couple of issues missing from the 100th Dream in this, which kind of frustrates me because you shouldn't be putting these as a set if you don't have the entire set, or at least you should mention that specific issues are missing. Because I was really looking forward to reading this, and I'm a little bit frustrated that I can't read it right now, because specifically I'm missing issues 1 and 2. So that's just something that I hope other comic shops can kind of fix eventually, is if you're going to do full sets, make sure you have every single title in that set, because completionists, which are very prominent in the comic world, are going to be very frustrated by this. So it's like reading in English if you have a certain trilogy, but you only have books 2 and 3. You only need to read 1 to understand 2 and 3. So that's the same thing with comics. But again, I picked these up because Warren Ellis is a tremendous author. I know there has been controversy surrounding him for a bit now, but off of pure ability, Warren Ellis is a tremendous author, and I'm excited to read these because, like I said, tribal themed stories are always intriguing to me, and I cannot wait to kind of sink my teeth into these and see where it goes. And the art, again, absolutely beautiful. So I'm really happy that I have those. We have Call of Duty, and again, this was just one that I wanted to pick up kind of for nostalgia. I was never a huge Call of Duty fan, I must admit, but I do like the story behind Call of Duty. I just don't really like playing the game. And this one is titled The Brotherhood. So I'm excited to read this because, again, I'm a huge fan of war stories, specifically from World War II, but I really do enjoy these kind of stories, and I think this would be a nice mini read for like a Saturday night or something, or even a Sunday morning. So I'm excited to read these because, again, war stories to me are always emotional. They're super intriguing. One example is The Punisher Born, also written by Garth Ennis, which I read recently, and it's one of my favorite Marvel stories of all time now, and it's only 4 issues, and it really digs into Frank's psyche, which is, again, a pretty big theme with comics that I think gets overlooked, but to me, the way that Garth Ennis characterizes Frank is absolutely amazing. All right, now, speaking of another detective story, we have Incognito by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. These two are amazing together as writer and artist. And again, because it's Ed Brubaker, this is why I picked this up, because I am a completionist for certain authors, and Ed Brubaker is one of them. I first discovered Brubaker through Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and I fell in love with that story. And I'm more of a DC guy than I am a Marvel guy. But I will tell you that Captain America: The Winter Soldier is one of the best comic arcs I've ever read. And it's because of this guy. He also wrote a good majority of Batman Turning Points, which I also like, which details Batman's earlier relationships with Commissioner Gordon. So Brubaker really understands detective stories and crime stories. There's still a bunch I got to read. Like, I haven't read Criminal yet, and I haven't read Fatal yet. But I have read Kill or Be Killed, which is also one of my favorite comic stories ever, produced by Image Comics. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be no exception. So that's why I picked up Incognito. It was because I'm a huge fan of Ed Brubaker, and I want to see what else he's writing. Now, this is where things are going to get interesting. The Martian Manhunter, the entire set, 1 to 12. So I picked this up because I'm a huge fan of the Martian Manhunter character, and it's not always easy to pick up his individual stories. They're really difficult to find for some reason, and John Jones has such a tragic backstory, but he has a really intriguing backstory, and he, to me, is the leader of the Justice League, and I know that can be debated. It can be debated between Wonder Woman, Batman, even Superman, but to me, the conscience of the Justice League is this guy right here. And I'm really happy to have this in my collection because I just want to complete a whole bunch of Martian Manhunter stories. But I will tell you, my favorite Martian Manhunter story is from 1988. It's a 4-issue miniseries on his origin, written by J.M. DeMatteis, who has written a lot of tremendous comics over the years. You know, Kraven's Last Hunt is one, Supergirl Wings is another. So he is somebody who I think you should really, really be reading. Tremendous writer, and he got me unintentionally interested in reading more Martian Manhunter. So that's why I have that set there. Now, we have Alan Moore's Hypothetical Lizards, and I know this is apparently not one of the best Alan Moore stories, but you must remember that Alan Moore's worst stories are pretty much everybody else's best. So that's why I picked up Hypothetical Lizards. The art looks really cool, produced by Avatar Press, and I mean, for $4 for these 4 issues, you're getting your money's worth. Anytime you read Alan Moore, bar none, you are getting your money's worth. So that's why I picked up Hypothetical Lizards. Okay. And then we also have a second Martian Manhunter run. 8 issues, came out in 2006, ended in May of 2007. This was picked up again for the same reason as the other Martian Manhunter run, because I am trying to be a completionist with the Martian Manhunter, because there's actually not too much to read. So I really want to read everything that I can of the character, because he has become one of my favorite characters of all time. So I want to read as much more as I can. And the same thing goes for this upcoming character. We have Dr. Fate. This is a 5-issue miniseries. And again, I picked this up to be a completionist, because for $5 to have a Dr. Fate run, it's pretty cool, because there's not a lot of Dr. Fate runs out there, and he's a character, again, like the Martian Manhunter, that I've really wanted to sink my teeth into. So that's why I picked up this particular Dr. Fate run. Okay, now we have The Extremist from Vertigo, and again, I picked this up because I really wanted to read a lot more Vertigo titles from the past, and I heard that Extremist was very, very good by Peter Milligan, so that is why I picked up Extremist. Still got a little bit more to go through, so if you're staying tuned, thank you. We have Huck, which is written by Mark Miller, who I have mentioned previously in this video. I picked this up because I think the idea of someone gaining powers and having to be responsible with them is a pretty cool premise, so that's why I picked this up. Little Forrest Gump homage here too. So that is why I picked up Huck, which is, it's fun to say that too, Huck. So again, Scott Snyder, The Wake. This is a Vertigo title, more recent one actually, before Vertigo decided to stop operating. This came out in 2013, and I picked this up again because I want to read more Vertigo titles, and I don't even know a lot of what Wake is about, but again, I picked it up because one, it was half off, and two, it's another Vertigo title I have not read or ventured into, so that is why I picked it up. Penguin, Pain, and Prejudice. This was also one on my list for a while too because I'm a huge Penguin fan. I like the incarnations both in Gotham and in the recent Penguin TV series, and obviously from Batman the Animated Series. And I mean, for $5, I couldn't go wrong. A lot of these purchases too were made because the deals were too good to pass up. And I actually wanted this particular run for quite a while, but I could never really find it at the price I was willing to pay for it. But I mean, if you dangle it in front of me for $5, I mean, it's really hard to reject. So that's why I picked up Penguin, Pain, and Prejudice. Okay, now we have the 12-issue miniseries of the Indiana Jones Chronicles by Dark Horse Comics. So I picked this up because I love the first Indiana Jones movie, and I'm a huge fan of Harrison Ford. So I picked up the Indiana Jones Chronicles only for that reason alone, and because actually it gives me a reason to read something different that I haven't really read before, outside of the typical superhero tropes. So that's why I picked up the Indiana Jones Chronicles. We also have the Human Torch Burn. The artwork's pretty cool, and honestly, I like Johnny Storm as a character. I'm not a huge fan of the Fantastic Four as a unit, but I do like the Thing, and I do like Johnny Storm. So that's why I picked this up. It's supposed to be 6 issues, but there's only 5 in here, so I have to get issue 6. And again, that's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine with certain sets, because I do think if you are going to sell it as a set, you should have the entire set in there. So that's, again, a bit of a pet peeve, but that's also a reason for me to keep hunting, which I hate to admit, but it is kind of true. So again, Human Torch. We also have Unknown Soldier, which this is a pretty known Vertigo title that came out in 1987, written by Garth Ennis. And again, like I've said earlier in this video, I'm a huge fan of soldier-based comics, so that is why I grabbed Unknown Soldier. Same thing with World's Finest 3. We get Superboy, we get Robin, written by Chuck Dixon. I love Chuck Dixon because he's one of my favorite authors, and he also wrote Nightwing, the original Nightwing. So I found that to be really awesome because I ended up falling in love with Nightwing, which I didn't think I would. I didn't know if I was going to like Nightwing until I read Chuck Dixon's run, and I was happily surprised. Now we're sticking a bit on a Batman theme. We have Batman Two-Face Strikes Twice. So it just gives me another reason to read another Two-Face story because, again, I love the character. And we have Two-Face Year One. So I am a big sucker for origin stories, and to me, if I get an origin story based on Two-Face, I mean, just count me in, because again, the character exudes huge themes of mental health, and that's something that I can relate to, and I really enjoy those kind of stories, so that is why I'm venturing into more Two-Face. Also have Thor Vikings from the Max series, and again, I just picked this up because I like Thor, and it's written by Garth Ennis, so I thought it can't be that bad. And the art, like I said, pretty cool. But I got it because I just want to read a little more Thor. I read Jason Aaron's run, and I read Walter Simonson's run, and those were exceptional. So it made me want to venture into Thor a little bit more. Simple as that. But we also have Mark Waid's Green Hornet, which is pretty cool. Artwork is pretty awesome. But again, there's only one missing, and that's issue 13 in this. So I have the first 12, but I wanted to get into the Green Hornet a bit more. But again, I'm a little bit frustrated that there isn't another part to this, especially when it is sold as a set. But other than that, I mean, I'm still grateful that I have it. So I'm really excited that I do have the Green Hornet, because I do have the Green Hornet Year One, which I actually picked up at Heroes last year, and Heroes is the bigger store that Villains is connected to, and I went there about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and picked up some cool stuff too that I'm going to be sharing on this page relatively soon, so stay tuned for that. But this is something that I wanted for a long time. So we have Dennis O'Neil's The Question. We have the first 11 parts. I believe there's 35 or 36 issues, and the issues aren't that expensive, so I actually think I'm going to go the old school way, and I'm going to collect the back issues of these. I read issues 17 and 18 because they were connected to the Green Arrow DC Finest that I read, and I was absolutely blown away, and I told myself I have to read this entire run of The Question. And again, this is another very underrated character. Vic Sage is a super, super overlooked character that I wish DC would capitalize on a bit more. And I love him because he's a true detective, and I love detective stories. So that is why I picked up Dennis O'Neil's The Question, and I'm probably gonna read that very quickly because I know I'm gonna really, really enjoy it. So we also have a few more stories here to get through. We have OMAC by John Byrne. And the only thing I've really read of John Byrne is the first 2 volumes of his Fantastic Four run, which I did like for the most part. So I want to give him another opportunity and read them, and I'm going to read a little bit more about OMAC. And again, I only picked this up because it looked intriguing to me. So sometimes that's all you need with a comic. You don't need to give a long verbal essay on why you pick something up. Sometimes you just pick something up because it's intriguing to you. And it's as simple as that. So we also have Fantastic Four Unplugged. And again, this is another one. It's missing one issue, I think. I think it's missing issue 6, but I'll pick that up eventually. It's probably not too expensive. But again, I wanted to read a little more Fantastic Four, and I want to read a little bit more about the Thing, because I think Ben Grimm is a tragic character that I think deserves a little more props. And I think he's obviously very humorous, and him and Johnny Storm, to me, carry the Fantastic Four. So that is why I picked up the Fantastic Four Unplugged series. And speaking of the Thing, we have the Thing Freak Show. So I thought this was pretty cool. I think the art is really unique. And the title actually got me. And as an English major, if you are sucked in by a good title, you probably should read the story. So Freak Show is really cool because I think it's going to look at the Thing through a self-discovery lens, where he's kind of trying to fight against himself and fight against other people that deem him a freak show. So I think that's a really cool premise. And I can't wait to read it because, again, the art got me, but also the title. And I like stories where superheroes are vulnerable, and it shows a perspective of humanity that I think is often overlooked in comics. Finals, we also have 2. We have all 4 parts here. This is from Vertigo. I just picked this up, again, because I want to complete some more Vertigo stories. I don't even know a lot of what this is about, but I picked it up just out of pure curiosity, you know, and for $4, why not? Now, we have a really cool one. This is The Goddamned by Jason Aaron. Missing issue 5, so again, a little bit annoyed at that. But we have the first 4 issues, so at least I can read the first 4 and then eventually pick up 5 and complete it. But anything that Jason Aaron writes, I will give a chance on, because Jason Aaron is my favorite comic writer of all time and has written a lot of my favorite stuff. He's currently writing Absolute Superman right now, which is absolutely, no pun intended, incredible, and you should really go read that. He also wrote The Other Side, which is a perspective of duality based on the Vietnam War and looking at it from 2 simultaneous points of view from Vietnam and America, and also Scalped, which is an indigenous themed story based on tragedy and maybe triumph. Not going to spoil it, but I would give all of those a read. We also have Hourman, and this is the first 10 parts. So I picked this up because, again, Hourman is a very overlooked character in DC continuity, and I wanted to give it an opportunity because I haven't really read a singular story on Hourman. I've only read Hourman and other stories, so that is why I picked that up. And last but not least, we have Global Frequencies by Warren Ellis. This is a 12-issue miniseries under the Wildstorm banner of DC. And I just want to give this a read because it looks tremendous. And I'm really excited to give it an opportunity because like I said, I like stories based on war, detectiveness, politics, things like that. I think they all deliver really good messages. Whether you agree with the messages or not, you can at least understand them and acknowledge them. So that is why I picked up Global Frequency, because it was a big title that was missing in my collection, and I feel as if I need to read it. To me, it's essential reading, and it's essential reading because it's a story that I think tells a lot about the world, and I think it's something that we could all learn from. So comics, yes, can also be pretty educational. So that is that. So these were some of my pickups. that I have made recently. These were pickups made just specifically at Villains. I also had pickups from Heroes as well, which I made the week prior. So let me know what you think. One thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to get a lot more videos in the store going forward. So let me know what you think. And also, if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, because I'll be posting more content shortly, and I'll be back with more soon.